Trump administration officials are breathing a sigh of relief that the highly classified bombing mission appears to have gone off without a hitch.
Yeah, they popped off.
But there is also concern now about what happens next when it comes to Iran. Operation Midnight Hammer involved top secret planning and a head fake as two strike forces of B-2 bombers departed the U.S., flying in opposite directions late Friday night.
It's hard to even realize
On Saturday, defense officials confirmed to CBS News that there were, in fact, B-2s headed to Guam, flying west from their home in Missouri. But those were decoys. A separate fleet of B-2s departed from that same location, heading east to the targets in Iran.
Yeah, they sent them over there just to get people confused. And it worked, too. The crazy thing is, like, you'd think it's like, oh, this seems really simple. Of course, they'd figure it out. They didn't.
Pentagon officials say the mission was an overwhelming success, but also concede it is too early to assess if Iran still has nuclear capability. What is next for the U.S. role in this very volatile crisis? Secretary of State and acting White House National Security Advisor Marco Rubio now joins us. Mr. Secretary, I know it has been an intense few hours, but so far it does not appear that Iran has yet retaliated against the United States. What intelligence do you have at this point about their capabilities to respond, the intent of their proxies? Is there any kind of command and control structure left to activate them?
Yeah, well, we'll see what Iran decides to do. I think they should.
We'll see. He doesn't even give a fuck.
Choose the route of peace.
Okay.
We've done everything. We have bent over backwards, okay, to create a deal with these people. Steve Witkoff has traveled the world extensively, met with them. Well, not even met with them, met through the Omanis with them and discussed back and forth. We even put an offer to them that they wanted elements of it in writing, and we offered it to them. Very generous offer, by the way. We've done it, and we're prepared right now. If they call right now and say, we want to meet, let's talk about this, we're prepared to do that. The president's made that clear from the very beginning. His preference is to deal with this issue diplomatically. But he also told them we had 60 days to make progress or something else was going to happen. And
And on day 61, everybody in the leadership and the negotiations just happened to get killed. Well, there it is. Something else happened.
I think they thought they were dealing with a different kind of leader, like the kinds of leaders they've been playing games with for the last 30 or 40 years.
I think that's exactly what happened. I think that they are used to dealing with retards that listen to, again, and this is the reason why I was really happy to have Trump and Elon in the White House, because I was like, I think these guys are scammers and clowns and criminals. Thank God. Thank God. Finally, we're going to have somebody in here that knows what to do whenever you deal with a scammer and a criminal. Fucking finally. Yeah, because they know what they're doing. They play the game. Yeah, it's some fucking common sense. Exactly.
They found out that's not the case. So this mission was a very precise mission. It had 3 objectives, 3 nuclear sites. It was not an attack on Iran. It was not an attack on the Iranian people. This wasn't a regime change move. This was designed to degrade and or destroy 3 nuclear sites related to their nuclear weaponization ambitions, and that was delivered on yesterday. What happens next will now depend on what Iran chooses to do next. If they choose the path of diplomacy, we're ready. We can do a deal that's good for them, the Iranian people, and good for the world. If they choose another route, then there'll be consequences.
Someone else had a good point. People saying Taco are now up in arms about Trump taking action. That's because the Trump always chickens out Taco thing was just bullshit. And this is what I said before. These people have no guiding moral philosophy at all. There is no guiding moral principle that they're using. They're just retards who complain and get mad for no reason. So you shouldn't take anything that they're saying seriously. You shouldn't listen and be like, oh, I wonder what they're really trying to mean by this. It doesn't mean anything. They're not trying to communicate anything. They're not trying to message anything. There's just nothing. Leftists are nonstop playing mental gymnastics. Well, it's not mental gymnastics. They're not even trying to do gymnastics. Like, they're just simply walking around.
for that.
What's Taco? People kept spamming and saying Trump always chickens out. Trump, TACO, right? Always chickens out. And like now he didn't. Yeah, none of those people are complaining now.
Good for the world. Yeah. If they choose another route, then there'll be consequences for that.
And again, also, like at this point, I mean, if I was them, fuck. I mean, you already got your nuclear sites bombed. You've gotten all of your air stuff destroyed. You've gotten your entire leadership killed multiple times over. At what point is enough enough? Because it's not like, I mean, at this point, it's like they can basically guarantee that if we don't play ball, we're literally going to die. Doesn't MSM, Trump regime hate MSM? It seems so useful of them to advocate when they want to address the nation. Well, yeah, Trump has always dealt with the mainstream media, even though he's been adversarial with them. Yeah, that's true, of course.
Up on a phrase you just word, weaponization ambitions. Are you saying there that the United States did not see intelligence that the Supreme Leader had ordered weaponization?
That's irrelevant. I see that question being asked in the media. That's an irrelevant question.
No,
they have
that
everything
is
they
the
need
key
to build a
point
weapon.
in U.S. intelligence assessment.
No, it's not. No, it's not. Are these people lying and fucking you around? Okay, okay. So if you find out they're lying and fucking you around, and they're fucking you around and lying to you in the nature of something that's building nuclear weapons, what is the conclusion to that? Well, it's because they're probably trying to build nuclear weapons.
No, it's not.
Yes, it was.
No, it's
that
not.
the political decision had not
I know
been
that better
made.
than you know that, and I know that that's not the case.
But I'm asking you whether the order was given.
And the people who say that, it doesn't matter if the order was given. They have everything they need to build nuclear weapons. Why would you bear?
Fucking exactly. Like, we need an order to be sure that all of the different actions they're taking, yes, exactly.
Why would you bury? It doesn't matter if the order was given. They have everything they need to build nuclear weapons.
Yeah.
Why would you bury things in a mountain, 300 feet under the ground?
Right.
Why would you bury why do they have 60% enriched uranium?
Oh, God, bro. I've been waiting on this. Ooh, I've been waiting on this for a while. Oh, my God. Holy shit. Thank God. Finally.
You don't need 60% enriched uranium. The only countries in the world that have uranium at 60% are countries that have nuclear weapons.
Right. Oh, wow. What a surprise. Wow. What are the odds? Bro's not playing? Yeah.
Can quickly make it 90. They have all the elements. They have. Why do they have a space program? Is Iran going to go to the moon? No.
You think you're going to go to the moon? Bro, it's like, and you see that, like, whenever this shit's laid out in front of you, how fucking stupid it sounds.
They're trying to build an ICBM.
No, but
so
that's a
they can one day
question.
put a
That's a
warhead on
question.
it.
That's a question of intent, and you know, in the
intent. Oh my God! Where did these? Jesus, he's demolishing her. What the fuck? Yes, thank God.
Assessment that it was that Iran wanted to be a threshold
How do
state
you know
and
what
use
the
this
intelligence
leverage.
assessment says?
I'm talking about the public March
says?
assessment, and that's why I was asking you if you know something more from
but
March.
That's also
if
an
an order
inaccurate
was
representation
given.
of it. That's an accurate representation of it. That's not how intelligence is read. That's not how intelligence is used. Here's what the whole world knows. Forget about intelligence.
Jesus Christ, bro. Oh my God, I love this. This is amazing.
What the IAEA knows. They are enriching uranium well beyond anything you need for a civil nuclear program.
So why? Yeah, exactly. Oh, so she just immediately agrees on this. You immediately agree on this, but you want to pretend like the. Oh my God.
So why would you enrich uranium at 60%?
Right.
If you don't intend to one day use it to take it to 90 and build a weapon.
Right.
Why are you developing ICBMs? Why do you have 8,000 short-range missiles and 2,000 to 3,000 long mid-range missiles that you continue to develop? Why do you do all
geez,
these
guys.
things? They have
Understood.
everything they need for a nuclear weapon. They have the
Okay.
delivery mechanisms. They have the enrichment capability. They have the highly enriched uranium that is stored.
Yes.
That's all we need to see.
Right. Well, and
That's it. Yeah, fucking obvious. Bro, the intelligence said they couldn't find evidence of nukes. That's not the same as finding evidence of no nukes. What the fuck do these people not understand? Well, it's that they're building the uranium. That's it. Well, why does anyone have nuclear weapons then? Because they work. Duh.
In
So
the
it was
hands
the
of a regime that's already involved in terrorism and proxies and all kinds of things around. They are the source of all
yes, and no
instability
one's
in the Middle
disputing.
East.
No one's disputing that. I'm not doing that here.
No one's disputing that Iran is causing all of the problems over there. No one's disputing that Iran is funding terrorist organizations. No one's disputing that they're enriching uranium to 60%. But somehow, we're supposed to pretend like they weren't trying to build a bomb. Uh-huh. Right.
And they were censured at the IAEA for that enrichment and for violating their non-proliferation agreements. I was simply asking if we had intelligence.
And remember, oh, but now they're going to leave the non-proliferation agreement, guys. Oh, no. Well, wait. If we bomb them, they're going to leave the agreement they weren't following. Oh, God, guys, imagine what happens then. I can't believe people react to videos and they just let it play while they're gone. Like, why the fuck would anybody, like, isn't that like that's so embarrassing, right? That, like, people just want to watch they don't even care about you. Like, it's crazy.
Okay. That there was an order to weaponize, because you said weaponization ambitions.
Well, we
which
have
implies
intelligence that they have
weren't
everything
doing
they
it.
need to build a nuclear
Got
weapon,
it.
and that's more than enough.
Yeah.
Okay. I want to ask you on the policy front. There are personnel throughout the Middle East from the United States, in Bahrain, in Kuwait, and other bases. If those countries are attacked by Iran because of their association with the United States, will the United States defend them?
I don't know. Maybe.
Well, that's exactly why they're there. That's a great point, actually. Do you know why we have bases in Bahrain and Qatar and UAE and all these places? All of those bases are there because those countries are afraid that Iran will attack them. If Iran was not a threat to the region, if the Iranian regime, because I'm talking about the Iranian people, the regime was not a threat to the region, we wouldn't have to have any of these bases. Those bases are there because those countries are petrified.
He's totally fucking cooking her. This is brutal. Jesus.
That the Iranian Shia clerics that run that country will attack their countries.
Will the United
As you
States
know, they've
defend
got
them
a
if they
very
are?
difficult history.
What
Well,
is
that's
this?
why-
It's not a nuke because it's disassembled logic she's using? It's just stupid.
Why we're there. That's why we're there.
So,
but
yes,
they'll
we
attack
will
us,
defend
is
them.
what they're threatening to do. So we'll defend our people, obviously. We'll defend our people. Well, they'll attack our bases. And those are our bases, and we're going to defend our personnel, and we're prepared to do that. But we'll do more than just defend. We'll impose costs on Iran if they attack American personnel, whether they do it directly or whether they do it through some of these proxies that they try to hide behind. And that includes the Houthis.
Yeah.
So another proxy of theirs. So, but let's hope they don't choose that route. Let's all hope that they actually decide, okay, let's go negotiate, because we want a diplomatic and peaceful solution. We have achieved our objectives. We're ready to negotiate this in a peaceful, diplomatic way. We've been prepared to do that for days. They are the ones that played games, as they have done for 40 years.
This is the woman who said free speech is one of the reasons why Nazis got into power in World War II. Yeah, you have to keep in mind that these people are they exist to actively subvert everything. I think these people actively exist to subvert American goals. They actively dislike America, and they work against the best interest of the country and the country's people on a regular basis. These people are not your allies. These people are not on your side. They are actively working against you.
years, as they have done to multiple presidents. They
That's
tried
what
to
I
play
think.
games with President Trump, and they see what happens. This is not a game-playing president. When he says he's going to do something, he will do it.
I hear you saying here you want to de-escalate when you are talking about diplomacy.
That's
you
right.
are looking for Iran to pick up that offer that was put on the table you mentioned by Steve Witkoff. Can you just clarify, does that mean the U.S. would still allow for Iran to have a civilian nuclear program if it does not enrich on its own soil?
But Sure, but that's never been an issue. There's countries all over the world that have a civil
But
nuclear
that's still the
program. No
offer
one
on
here
the
is saying
table?
that Iran can't. Sure, that's always been
Okay.
there. Any country in the world has a right to have a civil nuclear program. What they don't have a right to do is to enrich it at 60%, hide it
So
under a
they're still even willing to let them have a civil nuclear program? And they couldn't come to a deal? After that? Well, that seems very interesting.
mountain
I
and
wonder
develop
why.
long-range and short-range and mid-range missiles and sponsor terrorist
Very
proxies all over
it's
the
very
world. They don't have a
generous.
right to do that. And that's what they've been doing. And no one's dealt with it. And it's continued to linger. And they've played games with multiple presidents and multiple countries around the world, and they've gotten away with it for 40-something years. This is very simple. The president wants to resolve this diplomatically and peacefully. He gave them a chance to do that. They delayed. They had all these kind of delay tactics. They wouldn't even meet with us directly. We had to go through third countries. This is very simple. Let's meet directly. Let's work on agreements that are good
You
for
see,
Iran.
they were playing games, bro. They were playing games the entire time.
Good for the Iranian people in particular,
Yep.
good for the safety and security of the world and the United States. That's always been our preference. That continues to be our preference. But they're the ones that were playing games with us. And these are the consequences. We had to achieve those objectives. We had 3 objectives yesterday: Fordo, Natanz, and Esfahan.
Iran just said they're going to decide the timing, nature, and scale of its response against the U.S. message. For sure, guys. Yeah.
We conducted
Oh,
a
yeah.
brilliant military
Yeah.
operation under the command of President Trump, and obviously great credit to Secretary Hegseth and General Kurilla and General Kane and all the airmen and the phenomenal people in the U.S. military. No other military in the world could have done this.
No, it
We've
was
achieved
astounding.
those objectives. What happens next is up to the regime. Okay, the
Yeah.
regime wants peace. We're ready for peace.
Okay.
They want to do something else. They're incredibly vulnerable. They can't even protect their own airspace.
Well, clearly they
Obviously.
could not. But
Yeah.
what is the U.S. assessment of how much nuclear material at those sites was moved prior to the attack? There has been talk for days about bombing of Fordow.
Well, look, we don't. No one will know for sure for days, but I doubt they moved it because you really can't move anything right now, and they can't move anything right now inside of Iran. I mean, the minute a truck starts driving,
Can't they read radiation signals from like satellites? I'm pretty sure they can, right? Yes? Okay, so then they would know if it got moved. Yeah, because they could see it, right? It's underground? Yeah, but they would have to take it out. No, the satellite photos are of the ground. So if the material was transported, then they would have been able to see it.
somewhere the Israelis have seen it and they've targeted it and taken it out. So our assessment is we have to assume that that's a lot of 60% enriched uranium buried deep under the ground there in Esfahan.
Yeah.
And that really is the key. What they should do with that is they should bring it out of the ground and turn it over. Multiple countries around the world will take it and downblend it. That's what they should do with that. And what they should do is say, we're not going to have any enrichment capability in our country. Instead, what we're going to have is a civil nuclear program like dozens of countries around the world have, where we build reactors that create electricity and we import enriched material. And we've made very general, I'm not going to get all the details of the offers, but there are other avenues here that would be acceptable to them. If that's what they wanted, if what they want is a civil, peaceful nuclear program, the route has always been there. The problem is that everything they're demanding has nothing to do with a peaceful program. They are all the things you would want if you want to retain the option of one day weaponizing the program.
Okay.
Which has been their clear intent. To me, that's indisputable. I followed this issue for 15 years, including the intelligence on it for 15 years. Okay, I have followed it. And the intelligence, these are assessments, and sometimes they've been wrong.
Bro, he's going hard. God damn. Jesus. Thank God. Thank God.
I've seen them revised multiple times. These guys want a nuclear weapon one day.
Okay,
They do,
to that point.
and it isn't going to happen. Not while Donald Trump is president.
Understood. You've said this is not about regime change, but you were describing a regime that you have said for decades, I mean, for upwards of 40 years, has chanted death to America, has done all the things you just described. Isn't a diplomatic deal with them a lifeline? Aren't you offering to negotiate with the same people you're saying did all these things? So therefore, are you actually
but that misses the
looking for
point.
regime change?
Well,
These people never understand pragmatism. It's like People are so locked in like the ideological box that they put themselves in that they can't even conceptualize the idea of working towards something, even when it's not the best option, but being pragmatic and working with what you have. She's baiting. Yeah, this is, again, it's a Reddit argument.
That misses the point.
Yeah.
I don't like that they chant those things, but one thing is that they chant those things. Another thing is that they chant those things and they have terror proxies are all...
Yeah, fucking exactly. Like, yeah, you can deal with some retard that doesn't like you. It's a lot harder to deal with a retard that doesn't like you who has a nuclear bomb.
All over the world.
Duh.
And they have long-range missiles that can reach the United States one day, and they have the potential to be one step away from a nuclear weapon. Yeah, well, one day could be tomorrow, could be a week from now, could be a month from now. You know, all it takes is the flip of a switch. By the way, they're not going to broadcast that to the world. By the time we figure out that they're doing it, you have
they're going to announce, guys, we finally made the nuclear bomb. It happened today.
All the pieces in place, okay? It's like you have a gun here and the ammunition. It only takes 1 second. We have other targets that we could hit, but we achieved our objective. The primary targets we were interested in are the ones that were struck tonight in devastating fashion. The ones that were struck, I guess, tonight over there, their time, in devastating fashion, and we've achieved that objective. There are no planned military operations right now against Iran unless they mess around and they attack American or American.
It literally says fuck around and find out. Okay, well, there it is.
Interest, then they're going to have a problem. And I'm not going to broadcast
so
what
there
those
is more targets?
Problems are. But suffice it to, then they're going to have a problem. And I'm not going to broadcast what those problems are. But suffice it to say, know this: the United States flew halfway around the world, right into the heart of Iran, over their most sensitive locations. These things got rocked, and then we left, and we were out of their airspace. We were over the ocean before they figured out what had happened. And there are plenty of other targets. We don't want to do that. That's not our preference. We want peace deals with them, and that's up to them to decide.
You said...
Oh my God, man. Jesus. So what we do? Yes. You can see he's fired up over this. This is amazing. Iran already has a nuclear plant in Bashir, and they're building more. USA didn't bomb them, so our question was retarded, as Iran already has civil nuclear use, and it's no problem. Yeah, and that's the plant that has a lot of the Russian scientists at. That's my understanding. At least the last time I checked, or I heard Rubio's a competent and heated guy. Yeah. Then why murder every one of the negotiators? Because they weren't negotiating. Duh. What do you mean? Well, they want, so, I mean, because you wanted to have the negotiation happen. Okay, it's not happening. All right, well, kill them, get new ones. Eventually, you roll the dice enough times, you'll get people to agree. Problem solved. Kinetic democracy.
Defend American interests. Would the United States military take action to keep, for example, the transit point, the Strait of Hormuz, open? If there are attacks on oil installations, would the United States consider that a direct act by the state, even if it was carried out by a militia?
Well, I'm not going to take options away from the president. That's not something we're talking about.
We'll see what happens
right now in terms of being immediate. But if they do that, the first people that should be angry about it are the Chinese government, because they take a lot of their oil comes through there.
Yeah, 50% of the oil comes through there, apparently. The fact that people defend Iran's radical extremist government blows my mind. Like how? The reason why is because they're Westerners that live in comfortable, safe, Western privileged societies, and they literally cannot even comprehend the way that they live over there and the way that the governments exist over there. That's like, for example, do you remember like when all of those weird retards were going to march to Gaza and then they got stopped in in Egypt, and then they're like, well, why is it okay that we could do this in America though? These people have no concept of this. They can't even imagine it. I was just thinking that.
They should be the first ones that are saying if they mine the Straits of Hormuz,
why are you here?
The Chinese are going to pay a huge price. And every other country in the world is going to pay a huge price. We will too. It'll have some impact on us.
Yes.
It'll have a lot more impact on the rest of the world. A lot more impact on the rest of the world. It would be a suicidal move on their part, because I think the whole world would come against them if they did that.
Will the Chinese and Russians stop trading with Iran?
You have to ask the Chinese and the Russians.
haven't asked
Probably
them?
not. I mean, they're getting, the Russians are getting a bunch of these, these drones that they're using are coming from Iran.
Exactly.
They're coming from Iran. So I saw the foreign minister, instead of meeting with Steve Witkoff, is headed to Moscow to meet with Putin, which was a pre-scheduled meeting, which is fine. They can go meet. And, the Russians at the end of the day, I mean, they buy drones from them. But look, this is very simple. We want to have an agreement with them, a diplomatic agreement in which they have a civil nuclear program but are not enriching and don't have weapons-grade material or weapons-grade capabilities laying around. That's that simple. That's our interest here.
Understood.
Who they trade with, who they deal with, those are other topics. Our objective here is very straightforward.
This was a non-issue until Trump needed an issue? You think this was a non-issue? I didn't know that. That's good to know.
They're not going to have a nuclear weapon. They're not even going to get close to a nuclear weapon.
I had no idea.
They're not even going to be in the neighborhood of a nuclear weapon because these people are dangerous. This is a radical Shia clerics who run that country, and they are the source of all instability in the region, all of it. Without Iran and this regime, there is no Hamas, there is no Hezbollah. Well, because we don't want them to have a nuclear weapon.
Of course you're going to negotiate with them. Like, I love how she tries to get that off, like it's somehow, like, bro... It's like Reddit logic. Yes, obviously, the reality is that, of course, we do figure out and come to agreements with terrorist groups. Obviously, we do, because it's easier and cleaner for everyone. Bro, you don't get it. Yeah, bro, you don't get it. No, you don't understand. You don't understand, man.
Okay, but
that's the core objective. But I'm going through the things they've done because that's why they can't have a nuclear weapon. Okay, they sponsor Shias. They sponsor these Shia militias, Hamas, Hezbollah, all these other terrorist groups. These people are never going to get anywhere close to a nuclear weapon. Not while Donald Trump is president.
For the Americans at home who are going, are we at war? You know, I'm trying to suss out some of the facts here. So why would Iran agree to any peace deal if the United States has already pulled out of one that they had, as President Trump did in 2018, and now has launched 2 surprise attacks? Both Israel and the United States have done so. There is such a massive trust deficit there. How could you?
Because they want to live. That's the reason why. It's the same reason why Japan surrendered in World War II. You meet the enemy with opposing force that is so oppressive, so overpowering, that they have no choice but to surrender. That's obviously the option, out of fear. Yeah, exactly.
You possibly come
but the trust deficit started with Iran.
Yes.
I know.
Well, the trust deficit, the ones that shouldn't be trusted are the Iranians because they're the ones that sponsor terrorism. Did they forewarn us before they blew up the embassy in Lebanon and killed over 200 American servicemen?
Jesus.
Did they forewarn us before they built IEDs and blew the legs and arms off of American servicemen in Iraq? I mean, these are the people that are doing this forever. They're the ones that no one should trust. They're the ones that have lied about their nuclear program.
But
they're the ones that have hidden things from the international organisms.
But that sounds like we're headed towards regime change, or the desire to get these people out of power.
No.
Are you?
No. A serious foreign policy is one that's focused on identifying what our national interest is. You don't have to like the regime. There are a lot of regimes around the world that we don't like, okay? But in this particular case, what we are focused on is not the changing of the regime. Okay, that's up to the Iranian people if they want to do that, but that's not.
Declaration of war made by Russia made Japan surrender, not nukes. Look it up. You're right, man. I'm sure the nuclear bombs didn't have a single effect on Japan surrendering in World War II. For sure. Definitely.
Not what we're focused on. Our national interest is about one thing, and that is Iran not getting anywhere near the capability to weaponize and have nuclear weapons. They're not going to get anywhere near that capability. The president has made that clear from day one.
God.
Our preference for solving that problem, that very specific problem, is through diplomacy. We've said that. We've given it every opportunity. They played games. They tried delay tactics. They're trying delay tactics now on the Europeans because of the snapback provisions.
When did
and you
the
talk about the
president
JCPOA,
make this
that was a crazy deal.
When did the president make this decision? Because he said he was giving 2 more
They
weeks
just
of
keep
diplomacy
asking the same
on Friday,
thing.
and on Friday, these jets took off.
Well, the president retains the opportunity to pull out of this at any moment, including 10 minutes before. But the president ordered options. Look, the decision, in my view, was made when he wrote a letter to the supreme leader, and he said, over the next 60 days, we want to do a deal with you and solve this problem of nuclear weaponization. We want to do it peacefully. If after 60 days we don't see progress or it isn't solved, we have other alternatives. He made that very clear. I think what some people are struggling with here is that we today have a president who does what he says he's going to do. And that's what happened here. And hopefully the Iranian regime got that message.
We're going to hit a commercial break, so I have to wrap you there.
Yeah, there it is.
Thank you very much, dear.
Yeah, bro, she's trying to shut it down. She's so obnoxious. Yeah, I know. Exactly. It took them 40 years to enrich 60%, but they make us believe that they'll get to 90% next week. Well, the reason why it took them 40 years is because we kept trying to push them back. And also 60% is what was detected. It means that that's the baseline. There were also other readings and other people that said that they had registers of 80%. Yeah, there's a video right there. And 60% enrichment's 90% of the way there. Yeah, I mean, again, this isn't like a test or something like that, where like it's like there's a curve to this very clearly. And let's see, I read this. Do you think the phrase "we don't negotiate with terrorists" is dead now? Well, it was never alive. Obviously, you negotiate with terrorists all the time. Sometimes you have to. Sometimes you need to. Sometimes it's in your best interest to. But I mean, I'll tell you this. Like, I definitely before I go any farther with this, I want to say that like I totally think this interview was great. Like, I was very, very happy about seeing this, and yeah, Secretary, I have no questions left. And get cut to commercial. Yeah, they have 60% now registered because Israel's been hitting them for 3 decades. Yeah, of course, right? And think about if they hadn't been, they probably would have already had the nuclear bomb themselves. And so that's the reason why you don't want to let that happen.